So y'all watched the Real Housewives of Potomac, right? That reunion was fire. We all agree. So much back and forth, and I think the highlight was Monique with her binder and all of her receipts coming at Giselle. Giselle didn't have anything to say. You know, when Monique called out Jamal's phone number, Giselle just said, "Yep, that's his number." So she got the best of her in that round. I will definitely say that, even though, to be honest, I'm not a fan of either of them. I'm particularly triggered by Monique this season, so if I had to choose a side, I'm kind of tilting towards Giselle, but only because I dislike Monique right now. And that's the only reason. So let me just say that first. For all of Jamal's faults, I do have to say, I'm not mad at him for clapping back. He really didn't have anything to do with this. She was obviously going for Giselle and she was using him. He was caught in the crossfires and he caught the worst of it. And it's probably because Monique knew that was the only way she could really get at Giselle. Because for all intents and purposes, Giselle's all right. She's living a good life. Now, when a woman is single, the first thing they always say is, well, that's why you don't have a man. That's why you can't keep a man. And that has become, you know, the slur of choice. But if you take that aside, you know, Giselle is still a very good looking woman. She's on a hit show. She's making decent money. She's got 3 beautiful girls. She has a nice house in Potomac. You know, she still has her parents. She seems to have a lot of friends. So her life doesn't look bad. So therefore, what else could Monique say but that your man ain't shit? And while it made for good television, I had a serious issue with what Monique did because there was such vitriol and such hate and anger and spitefulness, ugly behavior. Jamal has never done nothing to you. I mean, let's just be real. And I know on this show, people, you know, hurl insults at each other. That's kind of the premise of the show, and they take shots at each other's husbands. But the only thing, okay, let me take that back. I was going to say the only thing that Giselle ever did was call Chris big boy, but she didn't. If what they're saying is true and that Giselle was trying to spread this rumor about Monique's last baby not being Chris's, I can totally understand why Chris is angry and why Monique is angry. But I don't know that the punishment fit the crime, meaning that I don't know that Jamal should have been caught up in this or she should have came for him the way she did. But nevertheless, she did. She came with her binder, pulling out all these receipts, talking about some girls, some women that he's been seeing, and trying to basically say that there was an overlap. There is an overlap between him dealing with this woman and him dealing with Giselle. So Jamal has some things to say. And let me start by saying I liked his delivery, and I know he's a preacher, so he has a way with words, and it definitely felt like I was sitting in church listening to, you know, pastor up there. It felt like an episode of Greenleaf. He was using his big words and his delivery, and I mean, he's eloquent and all that good stuff. So, you know, he definitely has a way with words, and I can see how that can skew people. But bigger than his delivery, I was listening to the things he was actually saying, or more importantly, listening to the things that he wasn't saying. So he never really said that there was an overlap or that he was cheating. He used the word mistress and said that he can't technically have a mistress because he's not married and he was a single man, so he was dating. All of that's true. But the question at hand is not were you dating and not were you dating this woman, but were you dating her at the same time you was dating Giselle? That's really the question, and that's what Monique was getting at. So in order to refute what she said, I feel like he needed to say that that wasn't the case, and he didn't do that. What he did instead was come at this woman who sent all this information to Monique. And while there are many sides to a story, you know, they say 3 sides, his side, her side, and the truth. And then you add another person in there, there's their version of it. So I get why he might be upset with this woman for sharing this information. And if she is a scorned lover, as he depicted her to be, meaning that, you know, she was upset because he wasn't reciprocating her affections. She was upset because he didn't want to help her with her dissertation. She was upset because he didn't hire her for some job. He says that she went and she sent this story to 16 different blogs and nobody picked it up. And when she rang on Monique's doorbell, Monique answered the door. So that being the case, if what he's saying is true about her shopping this story around, I would be upset with her too. It definitely is not a good look. And I don't know how old this woman is. You know, Jamal's in his 50s. I'm imagining she's age appropriate. You know, that whole I got receipts on you, I'm gonna tell, it's the behavior of a young person. So I understand his anger with her. And I think maybe that's why most of this seemed to be directed at her, because she was in essence not just blowing him up, but looking for ways to blow him up on a major scale, and to do so while embarrassing his woman, and as a side effect, embarrassing his daughters. He went on to say that she was writing a dissertation about empowering women. And he makes a good point. If in fact she was trying to empower a woman, then she should have just went straight to Giselle, because if your purpose is to let Giselle know her man is no good, then you should have went to her. Why go to all these other people unless you're just trying to assassinate his character, make him look bad, punish him, all of that. So I get it. I get his anger towards her. I feel like he went into way too much detail about the nature of their relationship, because that's not what we're worried about, or it's not what we're concerned about. It's about, is there some overlap? And he never addressed it. And the fact that he didn't leads me to believe that there was overlap. And he does not want to dig himself into a deeper hole by saying it wasn't. Because if he does, then this person can come back and prove that there was overlap. So if he was to come out and say, you know, I stopped dating this woman in March of 2019, and Giselle and I didn't get back together until, you know, May of 2019, she can easily prove that. So I could understand why he didn't want to give figures, dates, and times, because then people can pin you to those. But what he did was, which was, I have to say, smart. And again, I'm just casting judgment on the process, not the wrong or the right of this. The fact that he began talking about how, you know, he's a man of the Lord and he's not into reality TV, and because it doesn't shed a good light on people. That was his preamble to let y'all know reality TV is trash. And that's why I don't entertain it. All right, so now he's already kind of set the premise. You can't trust nothing from reality TV. Then he goes on to talk about this relationship with this woman, and then he discredits her. So he's discredited reality TV, he's discredited the woman. Then he goes on to Monique, who I thought was going to be the entire topic, but she didn't come till the very end. He spoke about the fact that he has never met her, he's never said anything about her. It was in fact her friend Gigi who was the one spreading this rumor about her sleeping with her trainer, and the fact that the baby may not be Chris's. Then he went on to discredit Chris by saying that he's heard that Chris has CTE. CTE stands for chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is a progressive and fatal brain disease associated with repeated traumatic brain injuries, including concussions and repeated blows to the head. The symptoms associated with this are memory and thinking problems, confusion, personality changes, and/or erratic behavior, including aggression, depression, and even suicidal thinking. And that Chris has anger issues. There's evidence of this because he had some incident with a woman at Safeway, and apparently there's a video swirling around on the internet, which I have not seen. And that at the reunion, at next week's reunion, we're going to see Chris act up and wild out to the point that he has to be restrained, further supporting this concept that he has CTE and that he's not stable. And he's also confirming this and saying that he's spoken to Chris and Monique's pastor or minister. So, you know, he's definitely laying some breadcrumbs, leading you to exactly where he wants you to go. So he did a really, like, he's gifted. Like, he did a good job of deflecting. And And that's why I watched this twice. I watched it once just to hear what he was going to say, just to get the juice, right? Just to get the tea, as they call it. But then I watched it again to kind of dissect his delivery and the whole video and a script. And it was very intentional. It was smart. It was shrewd. And I can see how he gets over and how he manipulates women, or he cheats and does these things, and maybe how he even got his way back into Giselle's life, because he's got a way with words. And he said something about people have a strange relationship with the words, or something to that effect. He was using a lot of, basically saying that there was a lot of semantics involved in this. But he is truly gifted at playing with words and playing with reality as well. And I saw through it, but I kind of respect it, if that makes sense. Just because, I mean, if you're going to come back and you're going to do it right, right? So, and he came back and he let y'all know he's a man of God. So he planted that in your mind. He let you know that reality TV is not to be trusted. He planted that seed. Then he discredited this woman and letting us know about her behavior and her character, so that you really can't trust the things she says. Then he goes in on a Monique, and he shifts the focus to her quote unquote wrongdoings, or her alleged wrongdoings. He brings up Chris's shortcomings and faults. And then he wraps it all up again about how he's about to go and feed the homeless and give out Christmas gifts and help with the election. I mean, this was a formula. It was like a well-written term paper. You know, like, I'm a teacher, so I am really big into format, right? So, you always tell your students, start with an abstract or an introduction. If it's an opinion piece, you let them know which side you're on. Then you give supporting evidence, and then you conclude it, and you tie it up nicely with a bow, and you summarize. There's a way that you do this that tells a compelling story, and that's what he did. If you fall for it, you start off thinking this is an innocent man who's just out here trying to do the Lord's work, and he got pulled into this reality TV nonsense. He got caught up with some woman who was mentally unstable. He got pulled into a couple who have their own issues. At the end of the day, he's just trying to serve the Lord. That's the story he told. Well done. Well done, I have to say. I don't believe all of it, but I think he did a great job of controlling the narrative. And he had two things he said at the end that I thought were rather compelling. The first was that he's not called to entertainment. So he said, I am called to the Lord's work. I'm paraphrasing, but he said, I'm not called to entertainment. Again, reminder, this is all smoke and mirrors. This is TV. This is, performances. I'm not all about that. And the last thing he said, which was a bit of a veiled threat, he said, I live in Atlanta, but I'm from Baltimore. And if you read between the lines, what he's basically saying is, don't get it twisted. I'm a pastor, and I'm living in the South right now, but I'm a boy from the streets. And if you know anything about Baltimore, Baltimore is not to be played with. So he's letting you know he's not the one. Well, I can't even say that I'm mad at him. And Monique, if you're tight, and I'm sure she's going to release a video or a live or something soon enough, and in response to what he said, but he gave you the business. And he had a right to do so, because you opened that door. So when you open the door, expect people to walk through it. That's all there is to it. And that's the same thing she's been saying to Candace all season. Candace got all this mouth. Candace started and she finished it. So you started this, and Jamal, I don't know if he finished it, but he definitely put another chapter in this book. So you guys can keep going back and forth if you want to, but nobody's really going to win. And in fact, I think the only people who are going to lose are probably his daughters, because they are children, but they're old enough to know what's going on and to hear all the things that are going on in social media. And they have friends who are of ages who can hear this and see this. And it's just, they shouldn't have to be subject to all of this folly. But one could argue that her mother opened the door by putting them on a reality TV show. So I don't know. But yeah, it was good, and it was interesting, and it was some good tea. I got my popcorn, my wine, and I sat and I watched. And I'm just gonna wait for the next chapter because you know there's gonna be another one. So let me know what you thought and to drop down in the comments and let's talk about it. Don't forget to like and subscribe.